And welcome back, teachers. We are going to continue looking at Google Classroom. Now we're going to look at creating the individual pieces that can go with inside of Google Classroom. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Create, and let's make an assignment. So when you make an assignment, the first thing you'll see is that you can give it a title. So I'm just going to call this Assignment for Demo. All right, and you can give instructions, for example. So if you want to say, like, please answer each question, choose best response, etc., you can leave that in here. Okay. From there, you of course have the options to add or create. If I click on create, you can see I can create a Google Doc, slides, sheets, drawings, forms. So this allows you to pretty much just do, for example, I do a create docs. It's going to create a blank Google document. And then if I want to change those viewing rights, I can tell them just the view of the file. I can have them edit it, or I can make a copy for each student. I can also remove that by just clicking the X icon. And I also have the option to add as well. Now, when you add, you can add from Google Drive. You can add a link. So if you have a URL to something you want to put in there, that's where you can do that. If it's a file, so let's say a PDF, you can link that in that way. And then, of course, also adding via YouTube. And when you add onto YouTube, obviously, it's just going to get a YouTube link. So, like, for example, if I click on YouTube, you can copy paste it in there through the search, or if you have the actual URL of the video, you can just insert it that way. All right, if I look at, for example, Google Drive, one of the nice things about that is that you can, of course, search your Google Drive. And so I created this basic exercise. So if I insert that, you can see that it is going to create that Google document for you. So if you already have an existing Google file, this is a good way to attach one that already exists rather than having to create one new, but you can still do the same options. You can have them view, edit, or make a copy. Now, real quickly, the differences between each of these is if you do, students can view a file. This is if you just want to have them look at something. So for example, let's say you have a PowerPoint with a set of lecture notes on it. That would be a good thing for them just to be able to view the file. You don't want them to change the notes, so you just want them to be able to view it. Students can edit. I would avoid this one when possible unless it's a collaborative effort as a class, because when you do students can edit file, every student that is in that classroom will be able to go in and edit that file. So just something to kind of be aware of. I'm going to lean towards you probably not going to use that unless it's a whole class collaboration, though you might have a different tool like a Padlet or something that you use to actually create something where students as a class could come and collaborate. Now, the one that you probably are going to use more than just view a file is make a copy for each student. So when you choose make a copy for each student, what that's going to do is allow the students to not only see that file, but they'll be able to edit it, and it's going to be individualized to them. Okay, so this exercise will be tied just to that student. Now, of course, I can come over here and assign additional options. If I have multiple classes, I can assign it across multiple classes. I can choose what students I assign it to. So if you had individualized assignment, maybe you're using something more for special education students, like you have accommodated version of an assignment or a modified version of assignment, you can do that through here. You can, of course, set the points. So how many points is that assignment going to be worth? Or you can set it even to be an ungraded assignment. So that allows you to pretty much say, hey, this is worth 10 points, 100 points, 0 points, etc. You can, of course, also set due dates. So if you are really trying to make sure students are getting a certain thing in by a certain time, you set a due date. So I'm just going to say, for the purpose of this demo, I'm going to set this one to have a due date of tomorrow. Okay, you could set a time if you want. So like, hey, it's got to be in by midnight. Others, it's late. You don't have to put a time in. Again, you don't have to do that. You can choose a topic. I'm going to stick this to Unit 1, so it's automatically going to assign that to Unit 1. Now, the nice thing is, too, you can also do a rubric. So if you don't want to do points-based, if you want to do something that's more rubric, you can create yourself a rubric. And you could just come in here, you give it a point, the level, description, what the criteria is. So maybe the criteria is like originality, and you have a description of what that means, how many points it's worth. So you can set it to be 0, 1, etc. And the level of that title, so maybe something like proficient. And you can add multiple levels as needed. So if you have like a 3-tier system, you can do 4, etc. You just have to make sure that you set these points accordingly. So I'm just going to go ahead and just put some points in here just so you can see how this works. So I'm not going to save this rubric just so that, but just so you can see, and of course you can add other criteria. So if you had multiple things for your rubric, you can do this as well. Up here you can see you can sort the points either by ascending or descending order. You can use different scoring options, so you can turn it off if you want. If I'm using a rubric though, I'm probably going to leave that on. And then of course you can also delete this as well. I'm just going to back out of this rubric though because I'm not interested in saving it. So just discard those changes. And the last option you have is to check for plagiarism. So this is a really good thing if, for example, if you're having students write up something, you can do this plagiarism check. All right. So it says you can enable originality reports on 3 assignments per class. All right. So if you have like a big paper that you want to check on, this could be something that you can do. So I'm just going to go ahead and turn it on for this assignment for this class, just so you can see that. And all I have to do now is I can, of course, come over here. I can assign this, which means it'll be assigned right away. I can schedule this. I can also save draft and discard draft. So assign means that pretty much it's going to be out in your classroom right away. Schedule it means you can schedule it to be assigned at a future date. So let's say you're just working ahead and you know, like, hey, on the 1st of October, I'm going to have this big Halloween themed project coming up. I can schedule it for them. Save draft means like, hey, I'm starting work on this, but I'm not quite done with this assignment. I want to come in and maybe change directions or something later. You can come here and save draft. And of course, discard draft just tosses this whole thing away. I'm going to go ahead though and click on assign. All right, and you can see it now says that it is saved. And it closes that window, and you can see now under Unit 1, I now have that assignment. All right, so there is the start of my Google Classroom there. The next thing I'm going to do is come in here, and I will be in our next video showing you how to do a quiz assignment.